G'day mate and welcome to Ship Design 101 with me, Jetty. I wanted to jump right into advanced ship mechanics, but I thought I should really cover the absolute basics first before we get carried away with fusion power, perfect engine efficiency, or how to get legendary asteroids. So today we're going to cover the most basics of how to go from a platform in space to a platform that moves, shoots, and does things in space. Let's start with actually making a platform. To get our very platform in space, we need to click on this button here, add space platform. We need to give it a name, first space platform, and click the create button. After we've done that, if we have a rocket solid or it has automatic requests from space platforms, a robot will come and deliver the exact item we need, being one of these guys, a space platform starter pack. If we don't have that, we can always load that in manually, and as soon as that's loaded in manually, it's already a request in space, so that means our platform will launch. And that'll get our very first platform up and running. As I said, you can always turn on this button if you wish. Your other option is you could use an inserter. I don't really want to load that item. I want to load the other item. You can always use an inserter to load up your rocket silo, and then once you have a space platform, you can then request things into the space platform. So if I wish to request in some rare mech armor and click OK, as I already have a rocket silo that happens to have one in there manually, well, we can then fire that straight up and it can get launched off. Your other option is you can always load what you want in the rocket silo and then click deliver cargo and send off exactly what you want to any of the ships that are currently in orbit. So with us now having the ability to make a space platform, get deliveries, we need to move on to the next step, which is actually having power, because if we look at the power grid, we don't have any power in space. So let's start with the absolute bare basics of power. Every single ship will have solar. Solar works incredibly well in space due to the complete lack of night. Narvis, you're going to have 300% normal solar power. For Gola, you're only going to have 120%. Gleba, you're going to have 200%. Vulcanus, you're going to have 600%. Aquilo is going to get a little bit bad at just 60% of normal power generation, and further out it's going to get down to 1%. But no matter what, every single ship does have solar because it just works. There are other options like nuclear infusion, but we're going to be covering those in a future video. Also, please, no matter what, put some accumulators on your ship. It just helps take care of some of the peaks and valleys that you may have when the ship is in operation. So add some accumulators. Don't need a whole lot of them, just add them here and there where you can. Next up, we have storage. There are two main types of storage. One is the actual space platform hub, which comes with 59 inventory slots, and also there's belt storage. The biggest advantage you're going to have with the space platform hub is it's a convenient place to put everything. Also, it's accessible via the rockets, and it's accessible if you wish to drop something from the platform back down to a planet. But there is a catch. The platform hub, you can interact with inserters, whereas the cargo bays, you cannot. So we can't get an inserter to interact with that. Whereas if I want to do some sort of space manufacturing, well, then I can make sure that I can pull out items from the hub and add them to something that I wanted to make in space, like rocket platforms. Also, the extra cargo bays, they're going to add 20 inventory slots each. Can I put this here? Yep. And if we just dump one of those right there, we can see the inventory go a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger again. But as I said, we can't interact with those with inserters. You can build them really offset and janky like, and a lot of people do, to make sure that we have the most possible inserter coverage for the platform hub. All right, next up we have, our belt loops. A lot of people are going to end up using belt loops. It's probably a pretty good way to store a lot of things, especially when it comes to asteroids, because they have a stack size of 1. Stack size of 1 means they are very, very hard to deal with when you want to put them inside the hub. Does mean you have to have some filtered inserters. Also, another place that people store things is inside machines. As you can see, I can stack up a little bit of iron ore here. I can also stack up a whole bunch of plate, and I can stack up ammo. And we can also use our sushi belts to do things like hold 2 or 3 or 4 different items by putting them on different sides of the belts. The sushi gets more complicated the more items you have, but a lot of people have ammo on one side and asteroids on the other, because that's a pretty good combination. Speaking of asteroids, we need to work out how we can get ourselves a whole bunch of asteroids. Asteroids come from the asteroid collector. The asteroid collector can reach out and grab anything within its catchment zone. We can also filter it for different items. So if I remove all the filters, it'll go grab everything, or we could filter it to set asteroids. It can be very, very helpful if you have a dedicated asteroid collector to filter out just a single item. Also, a lot of people end up using wires and combinator settings to actually set the filters that way. So we can link you up with a bit of wire and we can set the filters remotely from this combinator, or we can set it dynamically with a combinator that dynamically changes the recipes. Again, we're going to be covering that and a whole lot more in a future video. You should hit subscribe if you haven't already, just to cover the asteroid collectors, because they're a very interesting machine. Also, potentially a very good use of storage. All right, next thing we want to do is we want to get the asteroids out. We can get the asteroids out with an inserter on a belt, and then, well, we can add them to our loop, our sushi belt of, well, ammo and asteroids. Or if we find asteroids we don't want, we've picked up a little bit too much stuff, we can just lob them overboard. Lobbing things overboard is a great way to deal with rubbish because, well, then it's not your problem. So we have our asteroids, and now the big question is, what can we do with them? Well, early game, you only have 3 recipes for asteroid crashing, and that is, well, the first one being the metallic asteroid, which is going to give you iron ore, 20 of, along with a 20% chance of getting that exact same asteroid out. Something you need to keep in mind when designing your systems is they might kick an asteroid back out that you're going to have to deal with. On top of that, we also have the carbon asteroid crushing. That's going to give you 10 carbon with a 20% chance of getting the asteroid back. And finally, we have the ice variant, which is going to give you ice along with a 20% chance of getting the asteroid back out. And you can set up a simple system, something like this, where you're going to, if you have any extra asteroids that are kicked out, they're just going to be put back on a belt, the same belt that feeds in any asteroids we're catching from the wild, and fed into a simple system that just buffers up just a little bit so that you're going to save for later, and then of course throws anything you don't want overboard. And if you were curious on whether if you had excess asteroid chunks you were thrown overboard inside the range of your asteroid collector, well, the asteroid collector is smart enough to know that you've already decided that's junk, so you obviously don't want to keep it. So you can throw things out right beside the asteroid collector without any problem in the world. Next up, engines. They're fairly simple. You just need to feed in fuel and oxidizer. I was going to say you need to feed in one from either side, but we're going to be covering the straight 8 engine design in a future video. So technically you don't need to feed in one either side. We're going to be covering that in a future video. You should hit subscribe if you haven't already, along with other advanced engine features like engine efficiency, controlling your speed, and also, well, maximizing your efficiency. But again, they're all in future videos. So first thing I want to do is I want to plug in our oxidizer. Oxidizer comes from iron ore and also a touch of water, and we also need thruster fuel, which comes from carbon and a little bit of water. It is literally connecting 2 pipes, one to either side of the engine, and we should be good to go. Water, we need to make water, which is going to come from our ice. So we take our 3 different asteroids, feed them in each one of these, and we should be good to go. All we need to do is, well, have the input and also set the filters on these guys so they don't output the iron ore. They're in the wrong direction. I just want them to output the asteroid chunks. Should mention, if you control right click on the machine and then shift right click on the machine and then shift left click on the inserter, they'll actually copy the filter for the input for the machine to that inserter. But with that done, we should be able to start putting in some asteroids and therefore start making just a little bit of water and therefore make a little bit of fuel and therefore have an engine that works. The way this engine is set up with a simple 1-to-1 design means it's going to be around about 80% efficiency. We can bring up this little graph here, and this little design is going to sit you right about here. It's going to sit you at that like 80-ish% efficiency. It's not a bad setup for something that is very, very rudimentary and quite simple. Next, of course, if we're going to have an engine, therefore we're going to move, we should probably have some weapons to defend us against killer asteroids. Killer asteroids, again, same situation. We need to, well, copy our... Actually, no, I don't need to copy. We're good. But we do need to have some asteroids in. So with some asteroids in, we can take our crusher. We can make some iron ore. Iron ore is going to come out the back. If we get any bonus asteroids, they're going to come out the front. You cannot dump things fast enough. Yeah, okay. Iron ore is going to spin around and it's going to run through a whole lot of electric furnaces. No, you cannot run a steel furnace or a stone furnace in space. Something, a lack of oxygen. But with a little bit of ammo being made, and I have to say, yellow ammo and gun turrets are going to be covering you for the whole of the inner loop. So anything between Narvis, Fagola, Gleba, and Vulcanus is the inner loop. You're perfectly fine just using guns. You don't need to worry about anything more advanced like rockets and rail guns and anything else until you go out to Aquila and beyond. Again, we're going to have a future video covering all that sort of stuff in a lot more depth, but not right now. This is the basic ship design. So something simple like this makes a little bit of ammo travels forward, feeds up to some guns. Guns do have a very, very strong protective wall in front of them. Walls are actually incredibly strong and incredibly powerful in space, but I do have to advise you, very importantly, if you're going to be flying around in space, bring some repair packs. They're not terribly effective. They are very slow to get things repaired, but you don't really want to waste a whole rocket launch on bringing up one wall that's broken, well, one wall that's destroyed, when you could have just brought up a single rocket with 100 repair packs and repaired every wall for quite some time. Hopefully, your walls never take any damage, but on the off chance they do, bring some repair packs. All right, last thing we need to talk about is how to get a ship to move. To get a ship to move, we need to click on the hub, we need to pick a destination, and also we want to tell the ship what to do. So I'm going to go to vulcanus. I'm going to say, hey, I want to pick up green belt. I want to import that from vulcanus. I want to say how much I want to import. In this case, it's going to be 100. In saying that, we do need to look at how long that's going to take vulcanus to launch. It is a rocket capacity of 50, so vulcanus is going to have to launch 2 rockets to fulfill this request. And then at the same time, I can say, you know what, I'd like to have some blue belt. We're going to take blue belt from Narvis to vulcanus. And again, we're going to pick the import planet. It's going to be imported from Narvis, and therefore we just need to have some stations. Stations are going to be, hey, we want to go to vulcanus. We have all sorts of conditions in here. Again, later video we're going to be covering this in a lot more depth, but for right now we're just going to go with something simple like you might do with a train, and that is going to be time passed. Just hang around in orbit for 30 seconds, and also after you hang around in orbit for 30 seconds, then head back to Narvis and we're good to go. With that, we can hit the start button and our rocket ship should fire off its engine and at least be on our way. All we need to do is turn on this request, and then at the receiving end, being vulcanus, I want you to import blue belt, 100, 1,000, doesn't matter what we want to import, but we just want to import some blue belt. So therefore, when our ship arrives, if it had blue belt, it would drop it off. And then back on Narvis, same story. I need to come in here. I need to say I want to import green belt here. And when our ship arrives at vulcanus, it's going to receive the green belt, and then when it gets back to Narvis, it'll drop off the green belt, pick up the blue belt, and fly back. And that's our very, very simple ship. It's up, it's running, it's doing a great job. It's flying around at the massive speed of 30 kilometers per second. In saying that, it's here. It's not going to take us all that long to transfer between the two of them. We can add more engines to have more potential thrust, is probably the best way of putting it. As we can see, our efficiency currently is about 85%. If I added another engine here and here, and also added in the pipes, we would actually have a higher efficiency, which means our speed is going to drop to start with, but as the engine stabilize, our speed should increase. There we go, speed of 28. If we remove, no, I just want to remove 2 engines, and we can then look at our speed. Our speed's going to drop straight away. Even though this one engine has more thrust coming out of it, the overall efficiency is lower. So efficiency plays a big part in ship design. It's something you need to consider. Obviously, putting in more crashes, more chemical plants, making more oxidizer, and also thruster fuel would be a better option to make the ship go faster, rather than putting more engines and splitting what little we have. But efficiency can play a big part in how your ships move around. Last thing I do want to mention very quickly is if we look at the space map, we're currently here. After we get to the halfway point, being 7,500, because this has a total length of 15,000, after we get to that halfway point, our ship will actually accelerate by 10 kilometers per second, because it's now no longer fighting against the gravity of Narvis, but actually being pulled into vulcanus. Actually, it's going to accelerate by 20, because currently we're fighting against 10 kilometers per second, trying to fly away from Narvis, and then therefore we're going to also start accelerating to vulcanus at an extra 10 kilometers per second because we're getting pulled to vulcanus. In saying that, if we get past that halfway point and we turn off the engines, our speed will end up being 10 kilometers per second no matter what, with us just coasting. So there is always the option to make ships that only get halfway and then cut the engines and then just coast the rest of the way. It all depends on what your end goal is for your particular ship. And with us coming up on the halfway point, I'm going to leave this video here because we're now accelerating. We're now going to be floating towards Vulcanus, which means this ship has completed its course. It is having a great old time shooting down every single asteroid it does find. And as long as, well, we make sure we capture those asteroids, we process those asteroids, we make sure we make ammo, and also fuel, this ship will keep running forever, even though it's now sped up to almost twice the speed it was originally. But with us turning off the engines, I'm going to also turn off this video. If you found the video helpful, you found the video informative, by all means, I'd appreciate it if you could leave a like. Also, at the same time, leave me a comment. Leave me a comment of what you'd like to see in the more advanced videos that we're going to be covering in the near future. I want to make sure that we cover advanced engine design, also advanced material processing, advanced asteroid collecting and or storage, along with, well, weapon and ammo creation, because there's an awful lot of weapons out there that some of them are viable, some of them are not viable, but I really like the way the space platforms work and the potential capabilities you can do with them. But with all that said and done, I'm gonna leave this video here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the subscribe if you want to catch those future videos, and I'll see you in the very next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.